Hey guys, Nick here. Today it's gonna be my say my first official build video, and we're gonna start off with probably my favorite ship currently, and has been my favorite ship for quite a while now, since it almost come out. So the Cnidarian Defender, or aka the Jelly. So some things to note with the Jelly: it's predominantly based off its console, the Cnidarian Defense console. So that console, it's a bit unique because most consoles like this are probably going to scale with EPG, so exotic particle generator damage, or straight exotic consoles. But no, this doesn't. Okay, then you say, oh, maybe does it scale with anything else? Like energy stuff? Nope. The Cnidarian Defense console basically is very limited on what it scales with. It scales with all damage, crit chance, crit severity, and what we found is or electrical damage, obviously. So electrical damage, but what I found last night is, for some reason, a fragment of AI tech seems to give it damage. So there's that. But back to the build. So for those who know and for those who don't, when you're in jelly mode, which I'll demonstrate right now, so we flip over, and if you can read on the tooltip, transforms into star, jelly form, weapons, and full impulse disabled. So if you're in jelly form, which is like all of its damage, this build, your weapons are offline. So what does that mean? That means your weapons are useless when you're in jelly mode. So what weapons do we use? We use set bonus weapons. So by this, I mean, if we look below, see it all the way at the bottom of the tooltip, part of set, 2 out of 3. 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 And part of set, 2 out of 3. So all 8 of my weapons are in one of 4 sets. So first set we're using is the disco two-piece, as I call it, the wide angle dual beam bank. Doesn't matter if you use the phaser, doesn't matter if you use the disruptor, and the dark matter quantum torpedo, both from Discovery Reputation. So Reputation tab and the Discovery tab. So I'll show you why. On crit, 1% crit severity buff for 20 seconds, stacks up to 25. So the jelly mode crits, it gets you crit severity. It's pretty self-explanatory. More crit severity, harder your crits are actually hitting, and a nice EO. So the next one we're using is the dual overcharge Delphic anti-proton beam bank, which is paired with this torpedo, the Delphic disruption torpedo launcher, and its two-piece, I believe, is crit. Yeah, 1.3% crit chance and 12.5 crit severity. So you can see the theme going on here. We're looking for stats that are going to be helpful when we're in jelly mode. And same again, we have our House Martok from the Brush Fire mission. So House Martok Transphasic, House Martok Omni. 2.5 crit chance and 15 accuracy. So, and again, we're getting stats that are helping us during jelly mode that any other weapon wouldn't be giving us. So if I was running, say, 8 phaser beams, those are giving me nothing while I'm in jelly mode. So set the photonic projectile weapon, that's useless in jelly mode, but we're looking at is the 3% crit chance. So in jelly mode, we're still getting that 3% crit chance. Alright, 2-hour gear. Deflector, I'm pretty sure everybody who's made a build before knows this one. We're running the Colony World Fleet Deflector, so the Elite Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector Array, and we're using I'd say the damage version, the one that's, because they both come with the crit chance, crit severity at the bottom, but this one's with the shield pen, the weapon severity, the EPG, and the EPS. Next, we're using the mycelial wave impulse engines from Discovery Rep, This is paired with the Tilly Shield for the 2-piece, which is our hull regeneration. If you've seen my tanking video, it's really good. 120% hull regeneration. Because for this build, we are running Attract Fire and Threatening Stance as I run History Will Remember, as in most of the time I'm acting as a pseudo tank because the jelly mode heals, gives itself more defensive rating, and it's just a very good way of actually drawing threats. So in normal and advanced DFOs, if you're going to run this build, you can basically tank the map and you won't feel a thing because the jelly mode's healing itself. We run our Disco 2-piece that will be passively regenerating you, and you'll be happy days. So, and last but not least is the Tholian Nucleating Warp Core. So this was from, I couldn't tell you what event, it was a few months ago. If you ran it, you'll know you've got it. But the point of this one is on a kill, so little, was it that upon defeating an enemy, creates 1 to 2 Tholian Warp Crystals that deals 19,900 radiation damage when enemies collide with it. Additionally, grants 2,700 points of secondary shielding for 20 seconds when ally players get near it. So that's the big part of it. When we're killing things, we're getting, because if you look at other warp cores, power transfer rate, we don't need. Weapon power cost, we don't need. More power from Ox into weapon power. It's not really great. And if we look at comparatively on our impulse engines, we don't need to move, so comp engines are out. Improves crit severity with weapons. We don't fire our weapons, so that's out. Most of the normal good options are knocked out because jelly mode is very unique. So for my consoles, we're running 7 isomags. I say 7 isomags because it doesn't actually really matter what ones you run as long as you're running isomags, because the jelly mode doesn't scale with any known energy type. I can show you re-engineering. Like, we look, beams, cannons doesn't scale with, I'll look down the list. The ones that really maybe you might get a little bit out of, maybe the power ones. You can maybe run, the Control X, but predominantly, don't worry about it. For what the jelly wants is the weapon power and the stacking max weapon power. That's what you want. You don't really care about the bottom modifier. You just want that max weapon power because it does scale with weapon power. It's unique. It doesn't scale with like beam damage traits, but it scales with max weapon power. So it's very intricate on how you build this ship. So 7 isomags if you're on a T6X this ship. All your engineering and all universal. So pretty self-explanatory. Cnidarian Defender, we're going to run the console from the ship. This is a event console, the Dragon's Blood Flame Reactor. 20% bonus damage to fire, disruptor, cold, electrical, that's the one we want, radiation, and psionic. So if you've done this event, it's from the Hyperion Intel Battlecruiser. You'll know it by, I'll turn the jelly mode off because you can't fire it in jelly mode. Sorry. It does a big, I'm breathing fire. Okay, back to the Ionic Deflector inversion is from the Terran Somerville. It's another event console. Sorry, there's a lot of these if you're a new player. So it's 28%, 28.5 category 1 electrical damage. So it's a great stat because we want electrical damage. And the console itself, on activation, sets shields to 0, then plus 25 to plus 100 Starship exotic particle generator for 15 seconds, shields with percent of shield capacity sacrificed. And then for each second, for 15 seconds, 3,000 electrical damage to 5 nearest foes. So within 5 kilometers. And a 2-minute recharge. So this console is good because it gives EPG, which feeds into like maybe our gravity well, our bioelectrical wave capacitor from the Connie 3, which is electrical damage. But predominantly is because we're scaling a lot of things in electrical damage. It does electrical damage, so it does quite well for comparatively to a normal like universal. Now, the one that I just mentioned, the bioelectric wave capacitor. The big part about this is the 39.9 bonus electrical damage that is given. So that's category 2. So that's a big buff to electrical damage that it's providing right here. And if you see its active launches a bioelectric wave in a forward trajectory for 30 seconds to foes, applies bioelectric wave each second to targets in a 140-degree aft cone, 92,000 electrical damage per activation. So if we look down, that technically does more than our jelly mode currently. But the jelly mode is a wider radius and lasts indefinitely while you're above 10% hull. So the jelly mode wins out in the long duration. In that burst, this bioelectric wave capacitor wins out on the burst hit. So it's it's a rather good console if you have it. And it's I stress big if. There's other options. You could just more crit chance, more crit severity, more bonus all damage console. So like your adaptive emergency, your DPRM. You could run a simulated module, ultimate. If you really wanted to, you could run Agony. You could run Crystal Prisms to keep universal designs up. Don't run Cutting Tractor Beam because Cutting Tractor Beam does not work for the jelly mode. I've done some testing, and it was more from Mixed-Stew. Mixed-Stew asked, "Does that work?" And I went, "I don't know." Went to tested, and nope, found out it doesn't actually scale the jelly mode. You could run the Domino for high situations. There's plenty of consoles. Maybe you want to run a oh shit heal and run the Protomatter field projector. You could run whatever. And for defensive purposes, plus the 20% bonus, the 20% all damage it gives, the hull image refractors. So if you don't know what hull image refractors is instead of, say you're at 100% health and you heal, instead of that just being null and void, it puts you into temporary hull. So if I have 200,000 hull, that also means I can have 200,000 temporary hull. So when you're healing, which the jelly mode does, and you're using maybe you're using like Ox to Sif, maybe you got someone healing you, maybe this go 2 pieces healing you, and a few other bits and pieces. This can push you to like 400,000 hull, and even a warp core breach isn't going to kill you at that level, and then you'll just heal back up. So it's just for a bit of it's a bit of an insurance policy. It's like I could get hit by a warp core breach and elite, and it probably still won't kill me when I'm fully charged up. And then bioneural and fusion circuits, pretty self-explanatory. Plus hull capacity, plus crit severity, plus control expertise. So just nice little stats to have. Okay, to our traits. So this is still all a bit, I'm trialing and erroring what I really, really like, but this build got me 1.3 million DPS in Hive Elite, and basically all I did was brick my loadout. Gotta love it, don't you guys? Just gotta love it. So 5 magics from the Hysperion. I'm going to start with Starship traits and we'll go back to personals. When dealing damage of any of the 5 magics, fire, cold, electrical, radiation, and psionic, apply the following 31% bonus damage to the 5 magics. So I'm dealing electrical, and sometimes I think I'm dealing some radiation. So with electrical, you're basically constantly keeping the 31% bonus damage with your engine powers all the way up. And with the console, that means you've got a bonus from the Hysperion. If you have that, it's bonus 50% category 2 damage to electrical damage, which is massive. To History Will Remember, which just dislotted. Yay! We are running this because basically either the increased hull or the increased damage. I like the threat generation because it's to be noted, I have all my endeavors, pretty much all the space ones done, so I'm quite beefy because of those and other sources. I like to help out because there's not many other traits that interact with that well with the jelly mode. on a like consistent basis. So I like to, like most people know, I like to tank. So I can also do like a million DPS on a hive, but also take in like 40% threat and help the team out because I can live through it as the jelly. Um, so that one, if you don't know where that comes from, it's from ambassadors. It's from it's the KDF variant. I don't actually remember its name. Um, Nope, I can't remember its name, but it's the ambassador ring. You look up history. You just look up history rule remember if you don't know where it comes from, and they'll give you a list of where it comes from. A good day to die. So don't be mistaken with a good day to die, the personal space trait. This is good day to die, the space trait, the Starship trait. Once per second when damaged, 1.5% bonus all damage, 5% incoming healing, stacking up to 50 times. So it is increasing my healing, it is increasing my damage when I'm taking threat or taking damage, which I am with my jelly, with my history rule member. So I'm healing more, I'm doing more damage when I'm taking damage, which I generally am with these two. So it's good. It's from the legendary voucher. If you're at 10 stacks, it's excellent because that's 15% bonus damage and 50% incoming healing. So you're healing more, you're self healing more, and it's really hard to kill you once you're fully stacked up. Ship of the line. So activating any emergency power ability grants crit severity for a moderate duration. This bonus stacks partially. So it's the first is 20. So I'll show you here. So I'll hit emergency power engines. We went from 189 to 209. And in 10 seconds, I'll hit emergency power to auxiliary. And we'll go to 219. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And boom. 119.8. So if you're sitting there stacking away, I think you can go up to 50%. So I would be at 139.8. But it's good because that's 50% bonus damage in the math side of when you crit, you're doing 50% more damage. And we have universal designs. So this is from the crossfield refit. When activating universal consoles lasting for 20 seconds, stacks up to 5 times, 2% crit chance and 10% severity. But I don't know if I actually have 5 universals. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4. We only have 4 on this build. So I'm technically not getting full advantage of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I really wanted to get full advantage of this, I would need to say swap. I'm not actually activating Hull Limit Factor, so maybe like in a full-on elite situation, I would swap Adaptive Emergency in, or DPRM in, or Domino in to get full use of it. I generally, so this is like a filler trait for me. In a full, like, I'm going for damage situation, I'll run it because it's like I can get most of the crit and most of the severity, up to 10% crit and 50% severity. But in like a day-to-day situation, I generally, like, say I'm doing Wolf 359, or I'm doing like an ISE with Trizander on his stream, or Spencer, I'm running plot armor, or I'm running on a dead, because if I'm tanking, it means I'm helping my team, I'm making them survive, but I just want to make sure I don't die, And by putting this on, it's like you're a brick wall, you don't take damage, and it's happy days. So if you don't have these traits, don't worry about it. I was running basically a full tank build and still doing close to 1 million in Hive. I'm still doing 500-600k in ISC by just running basically a tank jelly. So I'm just experimenting with the full DPS one, and some movement jelly. So there's multiple different ways of building this ship out, but this has kind of been my favorite so far. It's kind of like it's a good like DPS tank version of it. Next trait, Terran Goodbye, pretty self-explanatory from the Mirror Connie. Not Mirror Connie, Mirror Warship, sorry. It's a Connie, actually. Mirror Warship. When you defeat a foe, 25 accuracy, 5 crit chance, stacking 3 times. So that's 75 accuracy and 15% crit severity, crit chance, sorry. So you're defeating foes. You've got an extra 15% crit chance constantly. And last trait, Ruin of Our Enemy. When defeating a foe, 3% bonus damage, stacking up to 100 times. So say you're doing Ninth Rule or Rescue and Search, and you're killing wave after wave after wave, you can have 300% bonus damage from this trait. So you think that's like 3 times. That's incredible. And every 5th defeat, 15% recharge to bridge office time to bridge officer abilities over 5 seconds. So you're getting your bridge officers back quicker. You're applying Omega again. You're applying Organic Nebula again. You're applying Gravwell again. You're applying PO again. Just reapplying. So to our personal space traits that just want to come off with one click. Context is for king. So either way, I like this trait because if you're tanking, I'm a bit tankier. If I'm not, I'm getting 10% bonus damage. So it's 1% up to 10 stacks. It used to say 10 stacks, but I don't know why. Yeah, so this is up to, I think it's up to a 10 stack. So yeah, when you're in combat, good. When you're taking damage, good. If you're not, even better. Either way, it's like, if you're about to take a hit, good. Intel Handler. This is more of a test. So when marks a foe for 45 seconds, for every 45 seconds, marks a foe for 45 every 45. Defeat that foe provides 4% crit chance. So you kill the marked foe, you have 45 seconds of 4% extra crit chance, and then hopefully in the similar time frame it'll remark and you'll kill that next thing and get that extra 4% crit chance. It's the theory behind it, but I have to do a bit more testing to see if it's actually worth running compared to maybe Fluidic Cocoon, which if Fragment of AI Tech is giving damage, Fluidic Cocoon in theory should give damage if I'm tanking, but I have yet to test it. Duelist Fervor is a guaranteed, when you kill or teammate kills, that'll give you, 15% Cat 1 damage, but yeah, it's yet to be known. And a Good Day to Die. So, Good Day to Die is, this trait allows you to activate the ability Go Down Fighting at all times, and is 50% bonus all damage. So it is incredible because that is, I think it's equal to, it's almost equal to the bonus damage you get from Alpha. Well, it's a bit more by 0.2%, but it means you can be spamming the entire time instead of when you were below, I think it was 50% hull. So it just means for tax, this is why tax have superiority on the DPS charts. Is you have 100% bonus damage running, not all the time, but there's times where you can hit 100% bonus damage and really hit hard. And with our next trait, you get these back even quicker with a trait called Intelligence Agent Attaché. On weapon crit strikes, now that I'm reading that, I didn't think, the jelly mode might not actually get you this back. So that's something I might have to test later on, guys. We'll see about that. I'm sorry about that. That's something I didn't even think about, and I don't think Kenobi and I thought about this at all. Now I'm reading it to you guys. I go, I don't know if this will actually do anything. It's still a really good trait to have if it's working. But I will do some testing right after this, and we'll see if it works, and I'll leave a little comment below. Next trait, Adaptive Offense. So gain 2.7% crit chance on critically striking, 0.9% crit chance becomes 3% severity, max 9 severity. So I'd say it's one of our weaker traits, but 9 severity is 9 severity. It's still a little bit of a damage buff for when we're critting. Fragment of AI Tech, 20.8% energy weapon damage based on control. So must be at around 200 or so, and 50 control X. So surprisingly enough, when you take the fragment off, I'll show you here, you lose damage on your jelly mode for some reason. So it stays on. Anchored, Anchored's pretty self-explanatory. When you're stopped, you gain a stack of Anchored every 5 seconds for 4 seconds, and every stack is 5% bonus damage. So, if you look, we'll see here, I'll start moving. Oh, not in jelly mode, because in jelly mode, you can't move quick enough to drop Anchored. But without it, let's move, and Anchored will drop, and we'll hover over jelly mode, and jelly mode, instead of doing 64,000 damage, is at 58. Next trait, Boimler effect. So, if you don't have Boimler, it's great. It's probably the best cooldown reduction method we've ever had. 17.5% chance to recover the recharge time of all your bridge offers abilities to their shared category cooldowns. So this basically means it brings them to their global cooldown. So, you know, what we say is like Tractor Beam has a 15-second global cooldown. So if say it's on and if it's on 25 and you get the Boimler proc, boom, it's instantly at 15. And boom, there's no more way of getting more cooldown. I just run PO because it sort of fills in the gaps of, yeah, you're gonna get a bit of cooldown reduction. Maybe if you don't get a Boimler proc, and then Boimler proc kick in, brings everything to global cooldown. Fleet Coordinator, 2% bonus all damage per team member, self included, up to 10%. So when you're in a 5-man team, you 10% more damage, which is really good. And universal unconventional systems. So unconventional systems, when using a control bridge office ability, gain 7% recharge of your universal console. So see how my jelly mode has 25 seconds. This is a control ability, ejectable plasma, 22, and now 13. So see how I regained 7 seconds. So if you stack, if for some reason you have to jump out of jelly mode and you got to move, if you have control abilities, that's how you get it back quicker. So if I have 5 or 6, like I used to run where I had, I think it was 6 uncons, like I had 3 science, or I think it was 4, maybe 5 science, and then 1 on my engineering, and I got it back real quick. Because instead of like 2 minutes, it was back in like, 35 seconds. It was like, okay. Sorry. Now, to our space reputation. Space reputation, advanced targeting systems, 20 crit severity. This is rank 2s. My reputations are at rank 6, so I'm getting the rank 2 versions. Precision, 5% crit chance. Tireless duality, 5.8% crit chance based on your hull capacity. Because it's quite a big beefy ship, I'm getting quite a bit of that. And with running history, remember, that'll go even higher. That'll probably reach the 7.5% maximum when I'm fully buffed up. Auxiliary power configuration. I'm only getting 2.6% bonus all damage because I don't have that much power in Aux. But when I'm hitting powered Aux, that'll go up a bit, so 4.5. But there really isn't much else to run with a jelly. You don't scale with, say like an energy weapon build. You would normally run magnified firepower. It doesn't scale with the jelly mode. On a torpedo build, you run a mega kinetic shearing. You don't fire torpedoes. Particle generator for like an EPG build, you don't scale with EPG damage. Directed energy weapons, you don't fire your weapons. Like a lot of these are quite, you look at them and go, oh, those are great. No, doesn't work for the jelly. And Saru's Grace. So control powers add stacks to self, 1.25% damage and speed. So the speed is irrelevant. You don't need it it's not going to be used on the jelly. It's the damage. I'm just wondering if this one's still a filler. This would be a personal choice on you could run a defensive, so you could run automated protomatter conduits for when you're hit. You get shield healing and hull healing. You could run advanced hull reinforcement for hull damage resistance. You could run chrono capacitor for more cooldown reduction. There's a few choices in that 5th slot. I'd say make that your personal preference. Do you want more cooldown reduction? Do you want more tankiness? Do you want a little bit more damage? I just say you pick on which one you want to run. And to our station. So active space rep, it's the standard. Ones we used. I won't go into too much. Enter time, the shield, our sensor interference platform, the taunt, quantum singularity manipulation for the 125 science if we need, and refracting Tetron cascade for a little bit more Tetron damage. It's the standard 5 we always run. Okay, so my stations. Tractor beam for Uncon. Our photonic officer. So this is the unconventional system trait. When I say Uncon, so guys, if I say Uncon, unconventional systems, personal space trait. Photonic officer, recharging my cooldowns, my bridge officer abilities, 2% every second for 20 seconds. And one of the new bridge officer abilities, which is currently probably a little bit broken, but this is the build that has been getting myself and, if you know, Kenobi, we've been getting quite the good numbers in Hive with the jelly. And actually, I don't think Kenobi's been using this because he's been on, been away, but, you know, this is plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 bonus damage. That's plus 45 damage for a basic constant duration, so it's quite good. Fire at Will 1, that's for when I'm not in jelly mode. If you just want to 100% run this as a jelly mode build, I would probably swap this to Tac Team for a little bit more. Attack Pattern Delta is to be run in unison with Omega. So Omega is the primary. Let's see my bar. I hit Omega first, and then I hit Delta, because Omega is 15% bonus damage. So it's just more damage to the jelly. EPTE, so emergency power to engines, and EPTA, emergency power to auxiliary, are there for my ship the line procs. And EPTE, if I'm not in jelly mode and I want to get my my evasive maneuvers back, it helps with that. Most of the time I don't. Powered Ox is there for the same ship to line and the little bit of buff to my Ox trait, my auxiliary power configuration. My eject warp plasma is my unconventional systems proc. Emit unstable warp bubble is my unconventional systems proc. Organic nebula for the damage, organic nebula for damage, and gravity well 1 for controlling things into a radius around my jelly. And lastly, guys, I'll talk about on the build currently is my DoFFs. So DoFFs, when I have one of them fallen off, it's hard for the jelly because you don't fire your weapons, you don't fire torpedoes. You know, if you get a proc, you don't get a proc that really helps. So if you're on a budget level, your con hologram, your Dilreen for increased damage to certain targets, but other than that, you're running like Tac gives you power levels, Borg DoFFs, Tac, temporal. So like this one's really not that great. But predominantly these aren't too impactful. Like Tac is damage over time, Psi damage over time. So like most of these aren't doing a huge amount. Like Psi to give crit severity, like that one might work. But if you're on a budget level, I wouldn't worry too much about these. Like I don't think I can actually slot that because I have too many. But what I am running, 27 for Tac is improving crit severity. Dilreen is plus 10% damage to Borg. I'm generally fighting Borg. 32, which we just slotted. Psi has a chance to improve crit severity. Emergency con hologram is the emergency power to engines reset of my evasive maneuvers. So evasive maneuvers is on cooldown. So we'll show you. Evasive maneuvers goes on cooldown for 45 seconds. And we hit emergency power to engines, and boom, it's back off cooldown. 24, Tac has a chance to maximize my power levels for 5 seconds. So predominantly just they're not going to be build breaking if you don't have those, but they're nice to have. And the rest is like, there's not really much that actually interacts with the jelly mode, so you don't have anything to run. Maybe you want to run like a tactical science cooldown reduction officer if you can get like a miracle worker science. I don't actually have any. So mine's blank. I just don't have anything. So Anyway, guys, I'm going to talk just one more thing I want to mention. So, if you want to run this build in random TFOs, just note, when you're in jelly mode, you basically can't move. So, one way to counteract that, which I like, is jump consoles. So, the subspace jumper, it's a 10-kilometer jump that puts you in flanking position on a 1-minute cooldown. So, and it is affected by unconventional systems. So you can get it on a pretty short cooldown. You can use this to jump you around. Yeah, the Chevelle console was a bit buggy when I've been using it. You can run the Justy car where I can't see it. Here it is, the Justy car console if you have that. You could run. So I think it's called Black Alert. I don't think I've got it on my bars or on my trays here. But you can try and use like jump consoles to move the jelly around. But just remember that if you are going to run the jelly in random TFOs that have movement, you're going to make sure you're able to move the ship, or you'll have to just drop out of jelly mode and wait the cooldown out. But anyway, guys, this is my jelly build. It's still in its, I would say, its trial stage, because unlike everything else, you know, your beams, your cannons, your torpedoes, your science, your tanking, this is quite new. This is still quite a new console and new build style to revolve around. So it's still got some trial and error stages involved. This build's working really well for me. You know, it might work well for all of you guys. So if you guys got any comments, any questions, please leave them down below. But guys, if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.